Now Creative has released a new sound card, a brand new sound card, and this time it's not one of the many variants of the AE series of one of those high-end sound cards. No, this time it's a budget sound card. So let's take a close look at the Creative Audigy FX version 2. Now my current budget king of sound cards is this one. It's the Asus Xonar AE. For a reasonable price you will get a swappable opamp, you will get an excellent digital to analog converter, which is the ESS Sabre, and it all comes in a very friendly priced sound card. So when Creative came out with its sound cards, which will only set you back 55 euros, I was really anxious to find out which one is better, which one is my new budget king. Now, if you look at the lineup that Creative currently has, the AE5 and the more expensive cards are 150 to, 200 euros and upwards even. The Sound Blaster Z is about 90 to 110 euros, so this is really their budget version of a card. The Creative Sound Blaster Audigy FX V2 will cost 55 euros, and if you buy the DB Pro daughter card at the same time, you will only pay 9 euros for it. Separately, the daughter card only costs 18 euros. Now this daughter card gives you the ability to play DSD256 audio files and will add 2 channels, so you can use 7.1 instead of 5.1. It will also provide an additional optical output. The card itself is tiny if you compare it to, for instance, the AE5. There aren't that many sound cards that are so small in my collection. On the box itself, it says something about the BSN Award 2021 with some Chinese, or is it Japanese, sorry for that, characters, but thankfully we have Google Translate to see what it all means. And what else does the box say? Well, one of the interesting things is that it supports 192 kHz and 24 bits. Now that's something that a lot of, USB sound cards and other internal sound cards struggle with. The digital to analog converter mentioned is integrated into the codec, and this time it's a Realtek ALC1220. At first I was a bit shocked to see the use of a Realtek codec on a Creative sound card. Well, it doesn't really matter, it's still a very capable codec that's been around for a couple of years. And since a lot of motherboards already have this ALC 1200 or the 1220, the FX V2 isn't really an upgrade for those people, but for a lot of other people this may be a wise choice. The choice of the ALC 1220 over the 1200 is a good one. The ALC 1200 may be newer than the ALC 1220, but the ALC 1220 does have a higher signal to noise ratio, 120 over 110 decibels, and it is able to drive 60 ohm headsets instead of the 32 that the 1200 can drive. So overall it's a better codec. Thankfully there's also a secondary chipset from Creative themselves, and this time it's the Creative CA113. And it is exactly the same one as used in so many other Creative products, starting with the Recon 3D all the way through to the AE5, the one from my last video. Otherwise there aren't that many interesting, components on there. There are some op amps on there, but they aren't that interesting. So that's about it. It's a very sparse sound card. And this is what the driver interface looks like for the Creative Sound Blaster Audigy FX V2. And this driver interface is also very sparse. I mean, there aren't a lot of things going on. But I'm happy to see that they didn't use the ancient SPX Pro Studio again. So let's see what this driver interface has to offer. Now down here you have a mixer where you can set the several settings for the playback devices or the recording devices. It's good to see that this sound card also provides a microphone boost, because not all sound cards have this. Here you can set several things for the playback. Now I was interested to see that it also can do 32 bits. But in my opinion, this is a bit of an error because it can only go up to 24 bits. I mean, the ALC 1220 doesn't go any higher than 24 bits. For the recording, you can also set the microphone quality or the audio quality all the way to 24 bits and 192 kHz, which is interesting because again, not a lot of sound cards can do this. Now over here you have some settings. I mean, I can install new driver interface, so that's really interesting because they are keeping their drivers up to date. Not something that Creative is known for. Now you may have noticed that I said something with the daughter card being able to play DSD 256 files. Now that has something to do with the way that audio is encoded. Normally, like in a PCI file or a WAV file or MP3s, the way that the music is encoded or reproduced, it looks at the sine wave and it will look at individual points along that line to see what kind of frequency has to be reproduced. Now DSD will have something else. It will just say if it needs to go up or it needs to go down. That's about it. So the file size is, well, most of the time in comparable formats a bit lower. Now I know I'm going to get a lot of comments about this because DSD files is really a really sensitive subject. It is used for super audio CDs and a lot of people say that they can hear the difference. Now there have been several researches about this super audio or DSD files of people being able to hear it. Some people, they say, other control groups, they say they didn't hear anything. In my opinion, it really doesn't matter. If you enjoy DSD files, this may be something for you. If you don't know what DSD is and you want to find out if it is something for you, this may be an option to find out if it does anything for you. So a budget sound card for the listening sessions. Well, I didn't expect too much from this, but I was really pleasantly surprised. The highs were there, they were sometimes a bit too crisp if you know what I mean, but it didn't really bother me that much. The middles were a bit overpowered like with all Creative sound cards, but still it was not annoying. I mean, it was really decent sound. The bass was really nice. It wasn't too oomphy as I would like it to be, but that's a small preference on my side. Overall, the stereo picture or the sound staging, how you'd like to call it, it was, well, it did amaze me. It was really good. It was as good as the AE5 that I did in my last video. Overall, I struggled to find out if this was really a budget sound card or more of a middle class sound card. And these are the results that Rightmark gave. Please note that these results are weighted, meaning that while measuring I also used a decent 32 ohm headphone. That way the sound card has to do something to create sound. This will have an impact on the results Rightmark gives because the sound card has to work harder. Sound cards of bad quality and most onboard codecs will show a really big impact, whereas a sound card of better quality, the impact will not be as severe. So, what do the Rightmark results tell you about the Audigy FX V2? Well, again I was rather impressed by these results. By far the best results was the total harmonic distortion with a very, very respectable 0.00973%. This is something that only real high-end sound cards will give. The worst result was the poor with the stereo crosstalk. Something that a lot of other sound cards have shown in the past since I've started to use weighted testing. The frequency response gets good, but it is still very impressive for a budget sound card. Their intermodular distortions ratings are good, so overall this card gets good, something that I wasn't expecting. Something that I have learned in the last couple of years is that you cannot judge a sound card by its cover. I mean, I have seen sound cards that look really cool but fail to impress me. I have seen external sound cards that were supposed to make all other sound cards obsolete and were mediocre at best. I have seen really expensive sound cards and they performed average. And, well, when I saw the Audigy FX version 2, I thought, well, this one isn't going to impress me again. But I was wrong. This time, this sound card did blow me away. Now, the fact that you can play DSD256 files is really cool, but my guess is if you're really a true audiophile kind of guy, you don't want to buy this kind of guy, you're going to buy something high-end, maybe an EVGA NU, an AE9 or whatever. So this is not something for you, but if you want to play around with DSD files and want to find out if it does something for you, this is a really good choice. Overall, I thought that the listening sessions were really good. The results of Rightmark Audio Analyzer were good. The driver interface, although a bit sparse, well, it gets the job done, and it was nice to see that Creative finally made something else than the Command version or the SBX Pro. A really decent driver interface. So I really cannot find any negatives about this sound card. So overall, if you want to upgrade the audio of your system and you have a rubbish onboard solution like an ALC 889, well, this may be an option. Even for those people who already own an ALC 1200, this may be an option if you want to play around with, say, 7.1 or the DSD files. This may be an option. It isn't too expensive, so you cannot go wrong there. But the big question is it better than the Asus Xonar AE, my current budget king? Is this one better? Well, this is a really difficult question to answer. If you look at the components, the Asus Xonar AE is just better. I mean, the ESS Sabre digital to analog converter is a league of its own. I mean, it's way better than the ALC 1220 can provide. But the sound quality of the Audigy FX V2 is still very good. So I must say, it's a really close second place for the Creative sound card, making the Asus Xonar AE still my favorite budget sound card. So, with this ending, I would like to thank you for making it all the way to the end of this video, and I'd like to see you in the next one. See you then, bye bye!